All right, we're live.
All right. There we go. So let's call this meeting to order. We'll start by going through the roll call. So we have a number of people on the meeting today. We're going to have even more showing up in a little bit, I believe. All of the counselors are here. I see Counselor Kennedy, Counselor Moody, Counselor Swearingen, Counselor Schulte, and myself. We have Patrick and Kim here as well from the city, and then we have our city attorney here as well, and then we have, who do we have? Jeff Miller from that's HKGI, right? Remember if I can say the name right. And then we have a couple of members of the Planning and Zoning Commission here as well. So there's our roll call. So now we're going to go to the open forum. So for the open forum, we've received a number of comments that have to do with the zoning ordinance as well. So I'm going to do my best to summarize those for all of us, just so that we know what's going on here. So hopefully this won't take too terribly long, but hang in there. We'll get through these comments. So the one of them I got was from Julie Carlson here in town. She makes one comment that says that on 8th Avenue West, down at the lower part of 8th Avenue West, there are often people that park on both sides of the street there, making the turns for the big trucks really challenging. And she's wondering if there's anything we can do about that, such as consider a calendar parking for 8th Avenue during the construction, that kind of a situation. And then she also has commented on the zoning ordinance, and she believes that the minimum lot size is too small, and largely because of parking and setbacks, and actually being able to fit homes or residences in that small of a lot. So that's her concern there. We also received a comment from Sue Hakes in town, saying that the one-size-fits-all approach for residential zoning is a mistake. That's not the direction that should be gone in. Character of the mixed-use district is at risk. Largely taking a look at the row house and townhouse dwelling type of building. And then also was wondering what the definition of a manufactured house is. So that's a new term that we've been changing in the ordinance. So that's one of the things that that may need some more clarification. That's what she says there, and wondering what that means as far as a manufactured home development, and what that looks like, and how that would be compatible with what residences are already in the city. She asks that there's some time for public comment is the kind of the summary of that. So I apologize if I abbreviate greatly, but we have received a number of these, so I'm going to try and make sure that we get through some of these, or as many of them as we can. We received one from Rick Austin, who is concerned that the change to the lot size would be a way for developers to make a quick buck, to snap up lots and I'm assuming what he means is snap up lots and subdivide them so that there would be the ability to put numerous homes on one lot. He does like the idea of the mother-in-law apartment though, so that's that's the gist of his comment there. And then we've got a comment from Evelyn Larson, who agrees with the letter put in the News Herald by John Gorski. She says she needs more public information and more public input. She questions the 40-foot lots and the 5-foot setbacks, and says that this will not make affordable housing easier to obtain. So that's the gist of the comment on that one. Frances Jarko also says that according to her view, 4,000 square feet is too small, 40 feet is too narrow. Side yards should be left at 10 feet, and proposes a shorter building height so that views aren't blocked. Signs for homes should be only 2 square feet, shouldn't allow junk vehicles in any of the residential areas, and that mobile homes should be allowed in mobile home parks, which is one of the things that the ordinance addresses. Chris Skildum sends one and says that he believes that the changes are appropriate and that will take away some of the challenges in developing more homes in Grand Marais. He relays his personal experience of the Hestia Unfolded Apartments that he started up outside of town, and said that there were numerous qualified applicants that he had to turn away because he didn't have enough units. And he looks forward to working on projects developing housing in the community in the future. Ann Hamilton also put a comment in. She disagrees with the row house townhouses. Says that there's no way to keep them from the real estate market. So that's one danger she sees. Yes to the accessory dwelling units for rentals only, not for resale. Yes on apartment buildings, we need rentals. Yes on cottage courtyard clusters, as long as they're not for non-residents. And she says, I support almost anything for affordable housing. She does not want businesses or buildings being flipped for profit. So that's that one. Becky Stoner also put one in saying that we're actually just asking questions, whether or not the lot sizes allow for off-street parking, room enough for snow removal, additional noise ordinances, runoff issues on hilly lots, and aesthetics. Could there be an issue via these things? So those are all good things to consider. Lonnie Dupree says that he is in favor of increasing density in the city. He thinks it can be done well and still provide enough green space if it's done properly. Smaller lots and duplexes would help. City needs to offer its available land up. Oh, and this is his idea here about having qualified residents have a program that they can develop a home with and have some of the expenses for development deferred for taxes paid. So that's his idea for that. And then Doug Sanders also in his comment says that he believes that the work has been done well, and that he's got one thing in mind, and that's the development of the North Shore Healthcare assisted living project, and that would be allowed via this ordinance. So he's very grateful for that. So those, I apologize if I missed any. Those are the ones that were submitted to the through Patrick, and that we have gathered from some other places as well. So we're keeping an eye on those. We're going to keep those together, just so that we know what has been said. So does anyone have anything else to add for the public forum? Anything that somebody has sent to you specifically for use with the public forum?
Yes, Hal Greenwood, a planning and zoning member, a long time one. Our mission was to follow the workforce study, and that's why we tried to lower the size of the lots to increase more lower income housing.
Hal, is this a public comment? because if it isn't a public comment, we'll wait till we actually get into the conversation about that stuff.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you. All
Hey,
right.
Drew,
So,
sorry. Did you want to talk about any of the other ones that we got along with our? There was a couple more. And do we want to read all those so everybody feels like they were heard? I think.
oh, I thought I did. Which ones did I miss? If you have ones that I missed, go ahead and read them out.
Did you get Mike Raymond? Did you get that one?
I don't think so.
All the public comments are available on the city website on the housing plan page. I can go through. Let's see here.
Whenever.
Oh gosh, that was just on the same page of the one that I just didn't scroll down. Sorry about that.
That's right.
So I'll just go through this one too then. My bad.
There's like 4 or 5 more that you didn't read.
Yeah. Do you want me just to summarize those?
No, that's great. Yeah, I just want to make sure we got them out there.
Okay, cool. I'll do that. Sorry, I didn't see that I didn't scroll down on the right email. So.
That's right.
All right. So Mike Raymond says that there's lots of effort that's gone into the revisions. There are too many variance requests for minor lot issues. 10,000 square feet seems excessive. 4,000 square feet seems like a huge change. Why not stick to a typical 40-foot lot, which I believe is closer to 5,200 square feet? Setbacks of 5 feet will bring a new tightness to our little town. Allowing apartment buildings of any size will dramatically alter the feel of some neighborhoods. And then he says that we should potentially have this as a public conversation before we look to change rezoning, I believe is what he's getting at here. So I believe that's what he's getting at. And I apologize if my paraphrasing is not adequate. All of these are accessible, so you can read the whole text, and I'm doing my best to honor the nature of these comments. Mike McHugh, he's writing a letter of support towards the changes. He relays his work as a planning commissioner. It reflected what local families and county businesses continually ask for, which is more working families, affordable housing, and preserving the city's unique charm and style. He mentions that we don't have a lot of space to develop in, so we need to develop what we have through working with HKGI, focused on reducing minimum lot sizes, increasing a variety of new houses allowed in residential districts, and updating and simplifying the language. So that's what he says. Larry Dean then also says anything we can do to create more housing is a good idea. Smaller lot sizes are a good idea. Bruce Block says having a more flexible zoning ordinance in terms of allowing for greater density and lower cost development is well targeted to try and alleviate the housing crisis. Creates opportunities for landowners. Also open the door for properties to be purchased and retasked to fit the needs of our time. Yeah, so he says that what I'm gathering on this one is that that basically what he's saying that if people are going to set roots down here, they need a place to live, and that we must be careful to amend soils for new opportunities to take root while not disturbing the structure of existing soils where deep roots have already been laid. So saying that we have to be careful to preserve what we have while still expanding for the needs that we have now and into the future. So I believe that's what he's getting at there. Will Moore, I believe this is Will Moore from, yep, says, this new plan is extremely welcome change. Glad to see so much has been revamped. Especially happy to see many different types of multifamily homes being allowed. Changes seem to create an overall denser idea of housing, which is unique in a small town. Very happy to see there's support for tiny homes. They'll aid with the housing crisis and attract young families. Virginia Dietrich Palmer has one as well. She says she appreciates the efforts. Reducing the minimum lot size by 60% is too significant. really small, or concerned about having a really small footback once you address setbacks. She's saying more of a 5,000 to 6,000 square foot would be better if an owner has a need for a smaller lot, that then allow it via a variance. Under the residential district, any small or large apartment dwellings, row house, townhouse, cottage, courtyard developments should be a conditional use, not a permitted use. Okay, because they're different than what is currently in there. She asks a question about whether or not vacation rentals would be allowed in the residential district. I'm just going to go ahead and say that that's not part of the conversation. That the conversation is strictly regarding residences. Address the ambiguity towards short-term rentals. I think that that's a good idea for us to be really straightforward on those. Parking needs to be addressed, especially in regards to apartments. We need to have off-street parking area for snow, and snow plowing, which is important as well. Say mandatory that owners must survey their lots to ensure they're not encroaching on their neighbors and that they maintain their full setback, no matter what that is. Soil absorption, rain is becoming more significant here. So we need to figure out how we can get water to not become a significant problem. And we need a better subdivision ordinance and process. I think we've identified that too. Make the changes and allow for more development. It becomes more critical that you're ensuring buildable lots are being created. At the minimum, there should be an application with written approval. So that's, yes, there you go. That's that. Very thorough. Chris Norman sends one that says the only things that particularly jump out are lighting and building heights. Lighting should be more completely defined in regards to intensity at ground level, and both high and low, allowable types of lighting and fixtures, and allowable intensity of uplighting. That probably has to do with our dark sky initiatives that we've been working on. Building height should be better defined as to from where the maximum height is derived. Is the owner or builder allowed to raise natural ground level to define that? So I believe that that's all of the new ones that are in this list as well. Did I miss any?
There were 3 Patrick sent us yesterday in an email about a little after 5.
Yeah, did I not read those?
Mary Somnus, John Gorski, Sue Hakes.
Did I get that one?
Let's see here. I'll just forward it to you again, Jay, just so it's at the top of your box. 1 second.
Patrick, what are these under again on the city website? Because they weren't in with our council packets.
If you go to housing plan, you go to the city website on the left-hand side.
Yep.
Three down from the top, or 4 down from the top, is the housing plan tab, and all the public comments are on that page.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Let me know when you get those sent there, Patrick. And then
They just sent, so it should it'll take a second here.
Yeah, I don't think I received that one previously, so I don't know if I wasn't on that list or not, but because I read all the ones that were in my inbox. So maybe if somebody else has those, like Kelly, if you've got those,
I can read them real quick, Jay.
Okay, go ahead.
This is from John Gorski. To the Grand Marais City Council, I strongly advise the City Council to not move forward with the proposed zoning ordinance. The one-size-fits-all approach to this ordinance may well benefit one area of the city and destroy another. On the fringes of developed neighborhoods, sewer and utility extension may become cost-effective via higher density and smaller lots. It is possible, but in no way guaranteed, that this will result in lower cost buildable lots. In fully developed areas, such as the historic town center, these smaller lot sizes, reduced setbacks, and the allowance to build conjoined townhomes will result in unintended and uncontrollable condo development. This is not the time during COVID to sort the good from the bad, as all stakeholders must be able to participate fully. All right. This one's from Sue Hakes. I recognize the work that has gone into the proposed Grand Marais zoning ordinance, and while some of the proposed concepts have merit, I offer the following thoughts. The one-size-fits-all for residential zoning is a mistake. Transitions between land uses, single-family homes, small and large apartment buildings, row houses and townhomes, cottage courtyard developments, and manufactured home parks should be gradual. Serious consideration needs to be given to the impact of the proposed land uses and how to best zone for each. Here are two examples. The character and purpose of our current mixed-use district is at risk, especially with the proposed allowance of attached row house and townhouse dwellings. This type of housing in this location will be expensive and clearly not a benefit to the stated goal for affordable housing. What was the reason the Planning Commission included mixed use in the proposed ordinance at the last minute? What is the definition of manufactured housing? What is the manufactured home building code? In the proposed ordinance, a 1,000 square foot lot requires a minimum of 3 units for a manufactured home park development and a minimum distance of 20 feet between units. A manufactured home park development might be one good solution to our affordable housing problem, but careful thought needs to go into the site selection for such high density housing. The COVID-19 pandemic has precluded meaningful dialogue between the Planning Commission, City Council, and the public. In-person public meetings are impossible, and zoning changes have not been a priority for most Grand Marais residents. This is not anybody's fault, nonetheless it's real. I respectfully request that the City Council do 2 things today. Make a plan to reevaluate the proposed ordinance, removing the one-size-fits-all and giving more care to identifying the best locations and lot sizes for specific land uses. Please consider traffic and parking, town character, and affordability, and find a way for the public to come together safely for information and meaningful dialogue, which could mean waiting until the COVID-19 pandemic is over. I appreciate your consideration of my requests. I also appreciate the time the City Councilors took to discuss this matter with me over the telephone. Please contact me if you wish to discuss this any further. Sue Hakes. And finally, Mary Somnus. Thank you to those who are doing the hard work to consider the proposed ordinance to amend Grand Marais zoning for residential uses. Workforce housing has been identified as the #1 impediment to economic and community development in Cook County. This continues to be the top priority for the Cook County Grand Marais Economic Development Authority. The 2015 Cook County Workforce Housing Study found that we need considerable development in this area to meet the needs of our community. The study recommends that we develop 25 single-family homes per year for 5 years, total of 125, and 65 to 75 rental units in Cook County. While some progress has been made with public and private investments since 2015, our work is not yet done. Considering the costs of land and construction, limited availability of private land, and natural conditions including ledge rock and wetlands, the only way forward is to allow for more density and for development to occur in areas with favorable conditions. While change can be difficult, it does appear to be necessary for the development of workforce housing. Again, thank you to the Planning and Zoning and the City Council for taking this topic up for consideration and the opportunity to comment.
Great. Thank you. I did find that, by the way, Patrick, it got stuck in my spam.
Oh,
It was a
that's
great,
no good.
Patrick, do you want to read the one from this morning too? I mean,
Yep. Let's see here. Okay, this one. Okay, this one is from Destry Wynant. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. Dear, dear, they had some facts wrong here. Dear Mayor Roth and committee member Patrick Knight, after speaking recently with our neighbors Douglas and Mary Sanders regarding affordable housing projects in Grand Marais, I feel compelled to share some input. About 4.5 years ago, I came to Grand Marais to work seasonally at the end of the Gunflint Trail, which is where I met my partner, Eddie. It didn't take long for me to fall in love with everything the city has to offer. I spent the first winter back in Chicago obsessively looking for long-term housing, and I realized it would be harder than I hoped to make Grand Marais our new home. We continued to come back seasonally, leading to Eddie becoming the nature program director at Chickwalk last year. Last season, we decided to live in our unwinterized cabin on the trail well into fall until we finally found permanent housing. At last, we got lucky and found a home to rent in town that was close to within our budget and pets allowed. This stroke of luck led to Eddie starting a management career at Subway and has allowed me to explore local career opportunities to supplement or replace my remote researcher position at a cybersecurity company. While our situation has certainly changed in the last 4.5 years, we still dread the inevitable housing instability ahead of us. I worry our luck will run out when our lease ends next spring. Still, we refuse to give up on our dream of weaving ourselves into this beautiful community and eventually starting our own business up here. I wanted to share our story in hopes of reminding you why this new zoning ordinance is so important. I know we are not alone in our struggle to make Grand Marais our home. The city needs hardworking young people like my partner and I. I truly believe that rezoning to encourage more affordable housing options is the best way to keep people like us here. Not only that, but relieving the stress of housing instability would allow residents to divert their attention from finding a home in Grand Marais to making a home here. Based on the summary page of the ordinance, it seems like this is a great step for the current and future Grand Marais residents. The main concern my partner and I share is the potential for more housing, but not necessarily more affordable housing. I hope this is considered when finalizing the ordinance. The rezoning ordinance should not be exploited to create more income for land and business owners here. I'm hopeful, though, that new housing options will create a standard for affordable housing for the community, putting pressure on those with existing rentals to make them available at more appropriate rates. Thank you for reading our input and for the work you are doing to make this ordinance happen. I look forward to seeing the potential outcome of all your hard work. Destry Wynant and Eddie Moran.
Okay. Any others? Does that pretty much capture it?
I'm pretty sure that's all of them.
Okay, cool. Okay, so then we'll close the open forum and we'll move along. It's a lot of things to process there as far as perspectives that are coming forward. So next thing, consent agenda. So the consent agenda is a typical 3 things we have: the approving of this agenda. So counselors, if there's anything to add to this agenda, now is the time to do that. Approval of the previous meeting minutes, and then approval of the payment of bills. Unless there's something to add or something to pull for discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we got a second by Counselor Schulte. All right, so we're going to do a roll call vote. Go through. Counselor Moody, your vote.
Aye.
Counselor Swearingen, your vote.
Aye.
Counselor Schulte, your vote.
Aye.
Counselor Kennedy, your vote.
Aye.
And my vote is aye as well. The consent agenda passes. And then we are going to move right on to the bulk of the conversation. So the zoning ordinance that we have that's on the agenda right now, and I'll let, I know that Hal wants to give a brief summary of how that was formed. and then I have a couple of questions to ask the council and the Planning and Zoning Commission straight up after we're done with that. And then we can jump into conversation as is necessary. So Hal, I know you're ready to roll. So why don't you go for it?
Well, I'd like to first of all thank Chairman Kennedy for his efforts on this study, and also Mike Roth, who was most helpful on trying to explain some of the issues. I'll explain the manufactured housing statute very early because I was involved in changing the law of the FHA and the VA to change mobile homes from manufactured housing. With manufactured housing in the ordinance, we're talking about mobile homes with certain restrictions of color, size, and that it would blend into the community, because that has to be very, very carefully regulated. But what we were given a mission to study the workforce study, and that's what a lot of these items came up. And the reason we talked about the lot size was because to lower the cost of lots and encourage more smaller housing. I think some people on your council had asked me to conditional use on 8th Avenue for 2 units of smaller housing, and they're very successful. So that's why I back that part of the study. There are some things that probably the comments that I've given here tonight are very good, and I think it's healthy that we consider all of the input, because we don't know if we're all right all the time. We just try to do the best we could. So that's my synopsis.
Those are your 2 cents. All right. Thanks, Hal. And we're glad to have members of the Planning Commission here for this meeting to be able to give some perspective to this as well. I don't know, Michael, if you have anything, or Tim, if you have anything that you want to throw in to add perspective to this conversation. If you don't have anything in particular, then I can just kind of jump into some questions for the Planning and Zoning Commission and for the council, and we can go from there. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Thumbs up.
Yeah, let me just say a couple things. I mean, I appreciate all the work that the Planning Commission has done to come up with this draft ordinance, and we've done this over a fairly lengthy period of time, working with Jeff and Mike, and unfortunately, I think this COVID issue really impacted the ability for the public to participate in a way that they might really have been able to participate. It's not that there wasn't an opportunity to offer comments, but it was a way different process. And I appreciate those that have made the comments that have to the council, because I think there's some really good thoughts and ideas, and I think especially respect the real estate and builder community folks that have worked kind of in this area all the time, and really understand some of the challenges that affordable housing has in the community. I don't want to see their comments just dismissed. I mean, I think it's important that and maybe unless the Planning Commission or unless the council is really fully intent on moving this ordinance forward, my thought is that it would be an appropriate thing for the council to refer this back to the Planning Commission with these comments, to allow the Planning Commission to consider those comments, make any adjustments that might seem appropriate based on the comments, even offer the opportunity for further participation. But I've been hesitant all through this process with the ability of the public to be involved, and this is such an important ordinance, and it's going to really have a pretty dramatic impact in the community that I think we need to make sure we're doing all we can to get it right.
Chairman Kennedy, I completely agree with your statement that we should consider all the remarks that have been made, because some of them are sound pretty good, and we should come up with something that is not controversial to the community if possible.
Yeah, and I would want to jump in and just say that I think that, you know, I think Tim's right. We're already past the time when people would be starting to build anyway. We have time to really hammer out a good plan for the spring, for next spring, and we can make sure that people have more opportunity, however we can do that for them to actually make contributions towards this, maybe get more buy-in.
Okay. Well, and that was a great lead in. The questions that I was basically going to ask the planning and zoning members and the council if we're ready to make a call on this, if we're ready to move forward with this, or if we would like to engage in a process of public engagement or something like that to move forward. So we've heard from the planning and zoning members. Why don't we go around to the counselors and see what your take is on it? And so here, I'll just throw something out there, and we can ignore it, or we can go with it, or we can modify it. Like, everything's open here. What popped into my head about this, considering the nature of the comments we were getting, is that we could create a period of time. I would say just like give it a month, and then have Patrick, and maybe under some of the guidance of the P&Z to put together some materials that summarize changes that are being made, so that this can be put out into the community, and then have that be basically a 1 month public comment period on this, where then we would have those comments, any additional comments to the community to process, and then hopefully get at what Hal was saying, a change to the planning or to the zoning ordinance that wouldn't be as controversial, but still would attack the issues that we identified. Because I really want to be sure that we keep in the forefront of what we're working on here, the development of more housing. Like, that's really the reason why we did this in the first place. So that would be a suggestion. Council members, what do you guys think? Don't all jump at once. Got this.
I guess I'll go. I hate being the first one to speak all the time. I always feel like I'm talking, but Tim, you already made a lot of points that I've been thinking of. As we looked at a lot of the comments, it came from a lot of people in real estate who, like you said, deal with this every day, and deal with what people are looking for. I like the thought of further consideration that if planning and zoning is willing to take it back and to refine with the comments that you've had and come up with something. Eventually, I had a suggestion. I'm a very visual person. Obviously, I'm not a builder, so I need to go out and look at things and see what we're talking about. And I think that would be good. Ultimately, the final responsibility lies with the council. We're the ones that vote on it. And it would be nice if we could have that workshop. Maybe we need to go together and look at some of the areas and how does it look if we have a row house in a neighborhood? How does it look if we build townhomes somewhere up by a law enforcement center, if we allow that? What kind of, I don't believe that mobile homes belong right here in the midst of, for me, I wouldn't want it in my neighborhood. I don't know how the rest of you feel. I wouldn't want a row house next to me. That's what I would have to look at. I want, that's kind of the uniqueness here, is our city lot sizes are different. They do vary. We have some creative and some really neat opportunities. We have some interesting shaped houses that have been either built as such or continually over the process of years formed through continual additions or expansions. But I would like to see us be able to have the planning and zoning, if they're willing, come back and give us something for us to look at it and talk about it. And if we are comfortable with where that's at, then I think somehow we need to open it up to the public. And maybe that's December, maybe it's January. I don't know when the pandemic is going to end, but we need to have a creative way to be able to be with people face to face somehow. Because we work for the people, and they need to be able to come and talk to us and look at things. And that's kind of where I'm at, is I want to be able to have those conversations. But I sure think it's a great thing, Tim, that you have offered for planning and zoning to go back, and the three of you that are here right now are willing to do that. So thank you very much for your time and for that opportunity.
And Kelly, on that front, I think that Julie Carlson shared that she has actually found some lots in the city that are that size, that are the 4,000 or that ballpark 4,000 square foot size. So those would be ones that we could look at, that we could say, okay, so let's think about this as a working size to go from. That would be something that would be a helpful illustration. And if there are any other illustrations that we can come up with that would assist in better understanding the functioning of a modified ordinance, then we could just make those things available to the public as well. I'm pretty sure that those would be really helpful for people who are seeking to find some more explanations in how an ordinance would function. Because I know when I got elected, I had no idea how this stuff worked, and now I feel like maybe I'm not completely clueless, but I'm still learning. So all that stuff would be very helpful.
Yeah, and the map that we have, and Patrick sent it out again today, the zoning ordinance with the map, that's really tiny. And I know that we have some needs for some updated maps that we actually could hang in City Hall exactly whenever we all get to go back there again and really look at things and study and say, here, yes, maybe this 4,000 or 5,000 square foot lot fits in this spot, but does it fit in this spot? So we have the ability to open some things up. I think it was Virginia who commented about, still leaving some things to the fact that people have to apply for a variance and come back to planning and zoning, and then ultimately to council, and have these two groups look at what they're proposing. Does it fit? Can it be done? And move forward that way. So, we've always got that leeway, but I just don't feel comfortable moving forward with what we have when I'm trying to, hopefully it doesn't take somebody another 40-ish years to look at these things, to see how things change. Who knows where we'll be in 10, but I want to do something that plans for down the road, and opening up ways that young families, that people who are working at less than professional wages still can have a home in this community and feel like they are in the neighborhood. I got raised here. I got raised in a neighborhood. My parents had the house that I grew up in from the time I was 6 months old until 5 years ago, so my later 40s. And that was a home. I want people and young families to have that opportunity. I have a son that's working towards that. He won't be here in the city limits, but that he has a home. And when I bought my home that I currently live in, I was a single mom, and it still is almost one of the proudest moments I have ever had in my life. And I'd like to see other people have that feeling. So I always try and keep those things in the back of my mind as we move forward. But, having a variation, whether we have a $130,000 home in the city or a $450,000, if the need is there, I'd like to see that we have those opportunities come available. and I appreciate all the work that everybody's put into this. It's a process, and it's slow, and it's painfully slow sometimes. You just want to go, I think, like the rest of you, I want to go fix everything, and it just doesn't happen that way. But we're definitely making progress, so that's my spiel.
Thanks, Kelly. Any other guys? You got anything? Any thoughts on this? Desires to move forward? Desires to hold off? Anything like that?
I agree with Tim, and if it's a, I hate to, like, I don't want to go back and reinvent everything, but I think that we have some really good letters and some really good concerns from people, and I think we're probably going to have some more as people get more aware of what's going on with what we're going to be voting on and talking about. So, I think if Hal and the Planning Commission is willing to go back and address some of these issues and see how they can get plugged into what we currently have developed here, I think it would be a good idea to do that. And I'm kind of like with Kelly, or maybe all of you feel this too. I think it's important. This is a very, very important piece of information that we're working on here. And I would really like to be able to have public comment, not computer comment, but I would really like to be able to sit in a building and have people to come in and take a look at what's going on, and we can provide visual aids for them so that they can see. And you have some pictures already in this, and it gives you a good idea of how certain lots can be developed, what can be put on them, how does that affect current development, current houses. And I think people need to see that. I think it's a big help to be able to see that. And, having an open meeting, I think is going to be important. I don't know when that's going to be, but I hope it's soon for everybody's sake anyway. But yeah, I agree with Tim, and I agree with Hal, and also Kelly on a lot of these issues. So that's how I see it. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Craig. Anton? Oh. You're still, he's got people talking to him.
Waiting for that Jake braking semi to go by.
Okay, gotcha.
I think that there was as we've been presented with these comments, and even when we first kind of got this handed to us from the Planning Commission, especially with the large decrease in minimum lot size, have been just trying to be more observant around town as far as how are things situated. And one of the first things that popped into my head, which it looks like Mike Raymond, when we got those comments, said the same thing. I mean, going back to that, what the majority of town is platted at, I'd say the vast majority of town with the 40 by 130. Obviously, there's 3rd Street is not zoned or not sized that way. But that's 5,200 square feet, so even making that change so that we're now at, what historical platted sizes are, and how most properties are sold. I feel like that's a better size than a size smaller than basically what all is not accurate, but the dark plat is in town, at least in the residential zone. Sorry,
you're breaking up.
What? Oh, weird. Sorry. Anyway, I'm up for, if those guys are up for going after it again. That's awesome. I think take these comments and see what they can do.
So I would make a suggestion then to planning and zoning and to the council that we set some kind of parameters here. So we set some kind of a time frame for comment, that we create some kind of a structure for for how we're going to receive comments and how we're going to, or who we're just going to send them to. Because I have a feeling that all of us are going to get comments sent to us personally. And I feel like we need to shovel all those in one spot so that we don't miss any. And also that we can work on creating some kind of resources like what Kelly was saying to help visual learners and to help other people who need to see some stuff explained a little bit differently than just the red line ordinance, to help understand how this would actually work and function in the city. So that's what my suggestion would be. It might take a little bit of work to do something like that, but I do believe that we've got is it Jeff we got here? Yes, we've got Jeff here, and we've got we've got some of the work that they've already done to explain like what a cottage development is and all those other things. I think that it would probably not be a heavy lift to adapt some of that information to visuals that we could use for people in the community to understand. And then tomorrow I'll be on the radio with Rhonda talking about this, and I can entreat people to submit public comment as well. And I think that if we really push this hard, I think if we give this another month, I think we can probably get just about all the comment that we're going to get. Does that sound about right to everyone? Do you want more time, less time? What are you thinking?
Can I just say real quick? I think it's really awesome the number of comments that we did have, because I don't think planning and zoning had any comments before it got passed forward, and I think maybe it just took this step to get passed up to city council where it seemed imminent to get people's attention. Mike said people aren't interested in zoning, but I think, and I don't know that there are a lot of people that are, but ultimately everybody's affected by it. And I think it's good that we've had the responses we've had, and if we got the same amount again, if we can take some of this to heart and put it into the plan that we have. Again, we can't satisfy everybody. We can't put, restrictions on people making money, right? Like some of those things, like I understand where that's coming from, but we can't limit that. We don't have that authority. But I think we can take, I'm grateful for the comments that we've gotten.
Agreed. Yeah, and Patrick, you got something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you talked about having central location for all the comments. My suggestion is that anyone who would like to comment now continue to use housing plan at grandmarais.city, and then any of the counselors or planning and zoning that gets public comment, just forward those emails to housing plan at grandmarais.city.
Cool. So does that sound like a way to move forward here, everyone? Just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. It seems like I've seen lots of nodding heads. Go ahead.
Jay, yeah, just to clarify, just if we're sending this back to the planning commission, what the expectations of the council might be. What I understand is you want us to take those comments and also open up for additional comments to be submitted in a fashion that I guess we'll work with Patrick on that to determine whether there's something beyond what we currently have. Try to address those concerns that have been raised in some kind of way that acknowledges the people that have participated. I mean, this is what normally would happen in a public hearing process, or planning commission would get this kind of feedback, and unfortunately, that just wasn't happening in a very constructive way, or at least in a very focused way. And I think the planning commission felt that we did as well as we could with the information we had and the direction we were given, and getting it, submitting it to the council maybe took it to that next step and made a sense of urgency in people's mind that this in fact could become a reality. And maybe that's what spurred on the additional comments. And I'm thankful for them, because I think that we can go back and make some adjustments based on some of that information and come out with something that might be a little bit better.
I fully concur with what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, that we should take another look at it and listen to the people. The virus kind of prevented us from doing what we normally would do, and so we have to take that under consideration. But I think the more input and good comments that are coming in should be reevaluated.
Yeah, so if there's anything more that council members, want to relay to the planning commission, I mean, I think now is a time to make it clear that, we're willing to consider and look at this from the comments we've received.
Tim, when is the next planning commission meeting? Because if people are contacting us, I think if other people want to make comments, they should get those in before the next meeting so that you all have those available to you in order to start to make changes, so that we're not redoing this process every month. I mean, eventually we have to move on, but if people are interested.
Right, and that's my thought too, Kelly, is that we need to set kind of an end date to this, so that we know when we can start processing. Because if we don't set that processing date, then we're kind of just going to keep moving, like we're going to be idling, and I don't think that's the right solution.
Yeah, and the next planning commission meeting is scheduled for September 7th. That would be our second, which is our first Wednesday of every month. So unless something would change with that date, that's when we would expect to have our next meeting.
Okay, very good. Anything else? I mean, does anybody from the council have anything to add to that summary that Tim gave for planning and zoning can be doing? Yes, no? If not, then I think that we have marching orders. I think we have how we're going to proceed with this. So thank you very much for the conversation. We will move forward with that, and we're going to continue to gather public comment and put together some more information, and we'll go from there. So for you guys who are on the planning and zoning, the only thing that we have left is our council and staff reports. So if you guys want to duck out, you're definitely welcome to. Thank you so much for making the meeting tonight. It's very helpful to have your perspectives and your input. So thank you much.
Yep.
Gotta love technology. It's fabulous. All right. So like I said, we have council and staff reports. So I'm just going to go from the top of my list down, and we will we'll go from there. So Anton, do you have any reports?
One thing that I wanted to bring up is just got an email in regards to the walking path over what off is that?
Second.
That first?
Second
Off the second. So just somebody had asked to, make sure we don't let that fall away. And so I said I'd bring it up, and so I want to make sure I bring it up. Yeah, that's we had an EDA meeting last night. We've got two lot sales up in the business park, which is exciting. And yeah, I think that's oh, we did talk a little bit about the assisted living that we had they were, their EDA was at our last meeting. And they went through and updated the dates that were on that. Remember, the dates were like a couple months behind schedule already. So they had updated that and passed that through. So as far as I know, they're reaching out to Ellers to get that TIF started. The projections, I guess. I think that's all. I think that's all I have. I'm sure somebody will say something, and I'll think of it. Something else.
Just raise your hand, and we'll come back to you.
Did-
All
did-
right, so-
hey, actually, really quick, when's the last filing date?
It was
Is that-
yesterday.
It was yesterday?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Cool. All right, Kelly, you're up next. Anything to report?
No, not reports. I'm getting comments, questions, people reaching out. And I didn't know if I should add it to the agenda, but I'm thinking maybe we could visit the situation in the campground of the removal of the blue line flag and how that came about. There's a lot of, I think, misinformation's floating out there and things. So if council members received information, how that came about, and how that they asked him to take down a gift and a cause, I guess I'd like to talk about that here so we can kind of get the right information out. And then if we need to have a discussion about it, that we could do that.
Okay.
I heard about it on the radio. That's, I guess, that's the first I heard about it.
I guess I don't know what kind of a format you'd be looking for a conversation about it, Kelly. There's
I'll go point blank, and I just, one of the rumors floating out is that you, Jay, and another council member, and of course then they don't say names. So that's why I just wanted to more or less have a discussion, not call people out on it. Received an email, talked to Dave. Dave asked them to remove it because, and I heard the comment, or I heard Rhonda read your response, Jay, yesterday on WTIP, and about the fact that it's in the campground and it's a political statement. So I'm just wondering if, in fact, you and another council person got an email. I don't care who, that doesn't matter. More or less how this process works. And kind of why he had to take down something that's a cause. I personally don't feel that it's a political statement. Just like I don't feel the Black Lives Matter signs are a political statement. I feel those are causes people get behind and support. Maybe we support, wear pink ribbons for breast cancer because we support that, or the American Heart Association, or those things. So I wanted to understand how it became, and I don't know, maybe it was at the direction of Chris and our attorney that this is a political cause. There's some real hurt feelings out there, and there's some really angry people. So I'd love to bridge this gap and have an understanding how we move forward as a community in these things. I don't know if that helps or not.
Well, I mean, I'm definitely willing to and able to respond in the, to what I know specifically of this situation. What I know of this situation is that a camper in the campground who is a person of color complained to me, sent me a message saying that the connection of the Blue Lives Matter, or the thin blue line flag, to white supremacy made the campground host very, very questionable in their eyes. And that made them very uncomfortable in the campground, seeing that there were a number of other flags that in the campground that were seen as being threatening to them as people. With that and other, I was contacted by a member of the community as well that more so entreated that, hey, is this really something that the campground host should be should be displaying. Now, to be 100% clear, I think that Gary Radloff is a hero. Like, I think that he's awesome, and I think that his service is amazing and unquestionably a good thing in our community. So I think that's one of the parts that's missing in this conversation. The conversation that I would bring up in regards to this is in someone who is working in the position of campground host on city property like that, then the appropriateness of making a statement that can be interpreted in a way that would take away from the efficacy of that person's job is that's the nature of the complaints that were received. And from what I understand, when he was approached about this, that he complied. He understood what the situation was, and complied. And I don't think that brings into question his service. I don't think that brings into question the cause at all. I think that shows a great deal of moral fortitude on his part for having done that. The comments that I have heard and have read seem to be conflating the position that he serves with the city with him being a private citizen, and those two things are different in this particular situation. If he was there not acting in the role of campground host, then he can fly whatever flag he wants in that situation. And I think that's the separation there, is his position as campground host and that requirement. Now, and I don't, I haven't waded into any of the arguments online because I don't really know if people are interested in engaging in a conversation about this. But one of the things that I could throw out there as an analogy is that there's a reason why there are no signs like any of these cause signs on City Hall, and that's because City Hall is supposed to be a place for everyone in the community to go and for it to be a place where, in kind of an ironic twist, it's apolitical. So that's probably the best I can do to explain that. And it's that may not be good enough for people. And if it is, I apologize, and I'm willing to have a conversation with people about that. But you said it yourself, Kelly. You put the thin blue line flag and the Black Lives Matter signs in the same category as causes that people support, and I would challenge people to take a look at, if a Black Lives Matter sign was put up at the campground hosts site, I would say that would be asked to be removed as well, because that would be making a similar statement. So the concept of approachableness, the concept of performing the duties of campground host, have a role in that as well. So
how as city councilors, all together cumulatively, how do we move forward again? And I think we need to think about this. Nobody's going to have the answer tonight, but bridge some of these gaps, because I understand what you're saying about the gentleman who made the complaint saying, hey, how do I deal with this? And we look and say, well, he works for the park for the city, so he can't have that there. We as a city pay Cook County to have law enforcement. We support them, if not by mouth, certainly by our checkbook. and asking them to enforce and patrol our city, you know, and again, how do we, I think this has been posed to us, it's not only about Black lives. It shouldn't be about one thing or the other. And I don't feel that it has to be one political party's cause or the others, because I cross both sides of the aisle. I don't think I'm alone in that, but I recognize everybody's not that way. And how do we work together to be more supportive? Because I think, and truthfully, I didn't know the whole story until Rhonda reported it as to why Gary had the flag. But I think if somebody were to be able to explain to another person why this is there and understand that that day that man saved 5 lives, it's not a show of I'm better than you. It's not a show of white supremacy. It was a show of look what he did for the people there. How do we all work together to try to bridge some of these gaps? And that, again, I don't expect an answer tonight, but I think we need to think about that and how we want to make responses. And when something like that comes up, maybe it's something that we work on together, if not at that moment, obviously, that's brought forward to us and we get to talk about it as a council, because I think those are important conversations that we have. So again, I'm not here to pick anybody out. And Jay, I hope you don't feel that way. I'm not calling you out on it. I'm not engaging per se in those conversations on Facebook because I like to find out the truth. When people get behind a screen and can type away, they'll put whatever they want. And I don't like that. I think truth should be out there. And that's what I said. It's like, wait a minute, I don't think you have all the right answers. And that's my only comment. My Facebook page is also not political. The only thing political I shared on Facebook is, hey, you can get out and sign up to run for council, for mayor, for whatever it may be. Think about it. We need people. We need bodies. That's my political post on Facebook. So again, something for us to ponder and think about, and have those conversations, even if nothing else, one-on-one together about how can we make this better and bring our community together, and unite it. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to say something.
Okay. You can just roll that into your report then.
The meaning of that flag, of any symbol, of anything, is, especially in this day and age, is highly debatable. In 2011, the meaning of that flag with the blue stripe in it, I believe, had nothing to do with white supremacy or protecting bad cops or anything like that. Gary got that flag in 2011 for what he did in the courthouse with an active shooter and taking a bullet for 5 people. It was a symbol of valor. It was a symbol of protection. And it was given to him by the Minnesota Sheriff's Association. And it's been flying in that park since 2011 or 2012. So when somebody offers a complaint like you received, it really bothers me that nobody takes the time to educate that person of why it's there. It's not there as a symbol of white supremacy. Gary has a story about that flag. It's very, very meaningful to him. I know personally it was very, very hurtful for somebody to ask him to take that down. And he took it down because he respects Dave Turstig highly. And he was asked very decently to remove it. In my opinion, I don't think he really wanted to. But I think that before we jump to conclusions on what somebody thinks something means, we should probably try to have a discussion with that person of why it's there and what it means to that person. Because it sure as hell doesn't mean anything to me about white supremacy. Neither does the flag with the red stripe on it. I was in the fire department up here for the 30 years. What's a red stripe mean? Oh, I was a fireman. Okay, you might want to interpret that something differently. Or a yellow stripe, a paramedic, or a flag with a pink stripe. because you support breast cancer. Or, you know, I just think that a movement was kind of harshly made too quick, should have been explained. And Gary is health-wise, he's in the hospital right now. He's not doing very well. And it was really a dagger to him to have that removed. It meant a lot to him, and it did not mean what the complaint brought to it. That's not what it meant. And I understand he's a city host and a park host and all of these things, but what somebody interprets how something means surely can be argued, debated, and I think we need to take certain things like this kind of seriously, because to Gary it was very important. And when I heard the interview last night, when I got handed the iPad and said, "Hey, listen to this," I was very angry that happened. And I'm still angry about it. I really am. He's a good guy. He puts in a lot of time to help that park and the marina and everything. So, I mean, I just, that's my 2 cents. And I think that, I think there's going to be some more dealing with this in the future, to tell you the truth. So, I mean, I think it was a mistake to just jump on that because of somebody's interpretation of a symbol. And I don't know, I can interpret Black Lives Matter signs a million different ways, and so can you. But they're all over town. They're in our mayor's yard. They're in our administrator's yard. Maybe it's okay. Maybe to some people it's not. But that's your private land. You have a right to do that. But I sure as hell can intimidate it. I can interpret them differently. You don't have to watch too much TV to interpret all kinds of things. But I just think that, some sensitivity towards what happened to Gary, I think was lacking. That's my opinion. And that's all I'm going to say about it right now. Thank you. Yeah,
thanks, Craig. I do think that you're onto something there. I do think that topics like this are going to continue to come up, pertaining to vandalism to Black Lives Matter signs and other candidate signs that happened this fall as well. I mean, this is probably all part and parcel to any kind of a bias training of some sort that we could do for the city, to try and start that conversation, or at least continue that conversation, so that we can start to move in a direction towards better understanding. I think that this could definitely play into an exercise for that. So, Craig, do you have any meeting reports or anything like that?
Yeah, I do on the rec park. I have July's information here. Net revenue was up 14% from last year. Closing the gap a little bit because of the COVID closure, which is kind of nice. I think, from being $100,000 down, now I think the estimate is around 60,000. So we kind of made up 40,000 in 2 months. So I'm hoping August might even close that gap a little better, so we end up seeing somewhat of a normal summer at the rec park. I think the COVID precautions that they're taking are working out pretty well. Some violations in the bathhouse, I guess some people aren't wearing their masks as much as they should, but they're handing out information now to everybody who checks in so that they know what's expected of them, and I think that's working out better for the rec park. They're doing a good job down there as far as keeping the place running, and it's very busy. The other information I have is on the golf course is still putting along pretty well. Excuse the pun.
Ha 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 ha.
But memberships are up like 21%, and the daily rounds are up So I think that's up like 17%. So, 2020 should show some fairly good numbers at the golf course anyway, because we've had nice weather and people just want to get out and they're doing things, they're doing something different. So they're just seeing some new faces, some new people, which is kind of nice. So that's all I have for that. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Greg. Tim, you're up.
Yeah, nothing to report. I think we'll wait till the planning commission meets again and see what I have then.
Okay. I have an update. The CEC has completed the trash cans the painted trash cans that they took on, and they are now placed around town, and they're pretty cool. One of the artists did a series basically on fish of the Great Lakes, which was really fun to see. And then Oli Sorensen, who just this year graduated from the Purpich Center for Arts Education down in the cities, did a couple of them as well, and they're very cool. I think it's really a nice touch, and they're talking about potentially doing more to replace the green ones and or to just add additional trash cans around town, which is really great. They're also trying to find some more grant money for projects having to do with the construction next summer and potential public art, like mobile public art during the construction and things like that. All of that stuff, is very ethereal at this point. Any proposals or anything like that will come to the council before it becomes a thing. So that's that. I've been attending a couple of conversations regarding the Passion Pit property out on Old Shore Road. There's a growing group of people that are trying to work together to create a solution for that property, to make sure that it remains public, that people can continue to use it, and that it's properly maintained. So those conversations are very, very early in the stages. There's a lot of different moving parts on that, so I have nothing else to report other than there's been some people having conversations about it. Yesterday, the local Cook County Emergency Preparedness Committee had a conversation about what's happening health-wise in the county. The Public Health and Human Services has 4 temporary CARES Act funded public health staff. So these folks are going to be working with the schools, and they're going to be doing case investigation and contact tracing for COVID stuff. We also had in the county Elsa Lundy, who was she was working with AmeriCorps this summer to be doing a project on food security here in the community, and so she's doing her presentation on Friday at 3 p.m. Going over her experiences in the community with food security and trying to fill those gaps where we don't have food security for people. The first case was in Grand Portage. First case was diagnosed in Grand Portage, and they're working on doing contact tracing up there and making sure that the community can respond to that in a responsible way. So that's something we're working on. School board is really busy right now trying to figure out what to do. Conversations are definitely shifting on that front as well. The county engineer is coming on board and is trying to do everything he can to work with MnDOT for the detours and for all the construction that's happening in the county. Safe routes to school is is trying to figure out how to do that safely, with working with the detour on County Road 7. So that's pretty tricky too, because there's a lot more traffic going there. There definitely still are, the lights are helping, but we just need to make sure that everybody knows to keep their eyes open for kids on those routes. I think that's about it. The county's largely working on trying to figure out how to distribute and use the CARES Act funding that they received to best support the COVID response in the county, which I think is a really good idea. And I think that's about it for me. Patrick, Kim, do you guys have anything?
I've got one.
Go ahead,
I've got
Craig.
a question. Dealing with the highway project. Do we have a contact person from the state or somebody we can? I just noticed that intersection across from my store, utilities and the plumbing and all that's been buried 9 days ago. And it's my understanding through Tom Nelson that it's all done, but it's just not getting backfilled. I'm wondering why it's not getting backfilled. And I'm also wondering why the intersection by the post office hasn't been touched for over a month. The intersection by the post office is pretty important. And I know they're working on the bridge and they're working on blacktopping. I was hoping that we wouldn't run into this problem that we talked about over a year ago, that the crews get spread too thin and stuff that gets opened up doesn't get done. We're going into the middle of August. We'll be going into another holiday weekend, and I'm kind of hoping that this stuff gets taken care of before another holiday weekend, especially when there seems to be no reason why it can't be taken care of. And the other question I have is the truck route coming in from Canada apparently is not working too well. There's a lot of Bison semis that come up 8th Avenue at 10:30 at night. They're missing the truck route turnoff that is actually in 2 spots, at the Gopher corner and also at the Gunflint Trail corner. But they get through town, they get to the bottom of 8th, and then they see the sign and they stop. And then they realize, I talked to one trucker that didn't even know where he was. So I sent him up 8th because it's the only place he could go to get out of town. But today I had 3 Bison trucks, and it seems to be one company in particular. But I just think maybe a talk to the state. I don't know how the signs are set up coming into Grand Marais, but a lot of semis are missing County 7 as a truck bypass. A lot of them are. They're going all the way through town and going up 8th and then out 7. And that's what Julie was talking about. When an 80-foot semi tries to make a turn down here with cars parked on both sides of 8th Avenue, they eat up the whole road. So if you're coming down, you got to back up and get out of their way. And I think that's what she was alluding to. And they shouldn't be on the street other than construction vehicles, belly dumpers can use it, but we're trying not to get all the trucks on the highway coming through town and going up the street. I don't know. A conversation with somebody from the state needs to be had.
We can definitely follow through and give that feedback to the project supervisor. I think that's probably the right place for that contact to go.
Okay.
They've been pretty responsive to things like that. It is kind of shocking how, they wouldn't think about that stuff until we bring it up to them and be like, hey, what about this thing that's really not working at all?
Yeah.
But hopefully we can get that resolved too.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Anton, you thought of something?
So clearly there's a bunch of people up. And yesterday morning, I think it was, there was about 5 RVs parked out at Artist Point with their outriggers out and their pullouts out. The lot right across from City Hall, same thing, curtains drawn. I don't know where they're going when they leave or where they're dumping. I don't know. We have an ordinance about it. And I don't understand where the sheriff's department is at, because if somebody's on the night shift, it's pretty clear those people are sleeping in there. And it's not really our problem for it to figure out a place for them to stay. That's not, it's just, I don't know. I think it's not trying to be a jerk about it, but I mean, it's a little bit, I don't know. It's just kind of poor planning on their part to be up, here. It's busy and half the Forest Service campgrounds are shut down. But you know, a Google search before you headed up the shore would tell you that they've been shut down all year. So I would like to see, you know, I would like to see that not continue to happen.
Yeah, I've called the sheriff on a couple of campers, and it seems like it's an exceptionally widespread issue this year. There's every night up at Pincushion, there's 2 or 3 that are camped up there. Like you said, out on the Artist Point parking lot, even downtown, like right on Highway 61, there was one a couple days ago. I don't know what we need to do to just have that be kind of a standing thing.
I think you write an ordinance about it, and we did that, and so you need enforcement. That's what needs to happen. I mean, that's what it's the enforcement side. I mean, that's probably why people do it, because it's like, nothing's going to happen. But if you get kicked out and you got to go somewhere else, well, you know, I mean, it seems, especially like in the downtown core, it seems like that's fish in a barrel. Like, how hard is that to just make that drive through and move along? You know, same thing. I mean, Pincushion early in the morning. You know, there's one guy that lived there all last summer and moved back in this summer, and he was gone, but now he's back up there again. You know, that's not in city limits, so whatever, you know. But downtown, I don't know. I don't find it appropriate. And then, you know, somebody sees it, they're like, well, geez, we'll just, if nothing else, we'll come back next weekend and we'll just park. I don't know. That's a bad precedent.
Kelly?
I was wondering, for overflow, is the courthouse parking lot across from the courthouse, you know, where they store their vehicles? I know they used to use that at Fisherman's Picnic because obviously people didn't know it was Fisherman's, and that was overflow. Does the county still allow that? Do we know? I think people are getting very caught off guard and thought that with a campground with 300 and some sites, there would probably be availability, and good thing for us, there's not. But even if the rec park was able to tell people where they could overflow for the night, possibly, or have something, on the door, but I don't know.
I don't believe that the county's allowing that anymore. A couple of summers ago, there was a group of people that had done a retreat up there in the past, and they contacted the county to see if they would allow them to do that again. And my understanding is that they said yes, and they had them up there, and it just became a humongous liability issue for them to have people there, and on the county's property like that, unsupervised and without proper facilities available. So my understanding is that that's not an option anymore. I could be wrong, but if from that experience and debriefing on that experience a couple of years ago, I think that's where they landed on it. So I mean, really, there's we live next to a humongous section of public land. I mean, dispersed camping on public land is a real thing, and it's a very good option, as long as you don't trash the place. So there's an ordinance in the city limits. So yeah, I agree with Anton. We should probably enforce that. So I can certainly follow up with that, Anton. They know it's me when I call and report that there's people set up camping, because I've done it a number of times. But I can touch bases with Pat and see what he has to say about that. So anything else? Any other reports? Thank you all for a good conversation this evening. We have no further business, so we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.